First contact. The message arrived on an ordinary Wednesday, intercepted by NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station in New Mexico. At first, the technicians thought it was an equipment malfunction. The signal was too perfect, too structured to be natural. Within hours, cryptographers confirmed what humanity had both hoped for and feared throughout its existence. We were not alone. Director Sarah Chen stared at the translation on her screen, reading it for the 12th time. A delegation from the Galactic Hegemony will arrive in 14 Earth days to discuss terms of membership. Prepare your representatives. No greeting, no introduction, just the expectation of compliance. They're not asking, she said to the Joint Chiefs and international representatives assembled in the Pentagon's secure conference room. They're telling. General Martinez leaned forward. Then we tell them right back. The United Earth Defense Force is ready to. To what, General? Interrupted President Okafor. Fight an interstellar civilization capable of sending perfectly modulated signals across light years. We don't even know what their technology looks like. The argument that followed was predictable. Military minds advocating caution and strength, political leaders divided between appeasement and assertion of sovereignty. As voices grew louder, a quiet knock interrupted the chaos. Dr. Elena Reyes is here, announced the aide. The room fell silent as Elena entered. At 42, she didn't fit anyone's image of humanity's first contact specialist. With her salt and pepper hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and wearing a simple navy suit, she looked more like a university professor than a diplomat, which she had been until 3 years ago, when the Global Diplomatic Court had recruited her for her unorthodox approach to international negotiations. Tell me why I shouldn't put our military on high alert, said President Okafor without preamble. Elena set her tablet down. Because whoever sent this message has been watching us for a very long time, and they already know exactly what we'll do if threatened. She pulled up images on the main screen. These are radio telescope readings from the past 6 months. There's been a non-natural object in orbit around Jupiter, moving in ways our physics can't explain. They've been studying us. Your recommendation? Asked UN Secretary General Kwan. We accept their meeting, Elena said simply, but we choose the location, and we prepare as if this is a complex game with rules we don't yet understand. And what makes you qualified to handle first contact with an alien civilization? General Martinez asked skeptically. Elena smiled slightly. Before diplomacy, I specialized in game theory and evolutionary psychology. I studied how intelligent systems interact when they have different rule sets and objectives. She paused. And I'd never met a game I couldn't eventually understand. 14 days later, Elena stood on a hastily constructed platform in the Sonoran Desert, a location chosen for its isolation and symbolic neutrality. Beside her, a small team of specialists waited. Dr. Raj Patel, xenolinguist, Commander Sophia Diaz, military liaison, and Dr. Marcus Kim, xenobiologist. Each had been selected not just for their expertise, but for their adaptability. Remember, Elena told them as they watched the sky, our goal isn't to fight or immediately surrender. It's to understand the game they're playing. The hegemony ship appeared without warning. No sonic boom, no disturbance of air. One moment the sky was empty. The next, a vessel hung above them, defying gravity. It resembled a massive obsidian teardrop, its surface so dark it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. A perfect geometric shape against the blue desert sky. No visible propulsion system, murmured Commander Diaz. No heat signature. And approximately 300 meters in length, added Dr. Kim. Yet it's generating no detectable atmosphere disturbance. A beam of light extended from the ship's underside, and 3 figures descended. As they approached, Elena studied them intently. They were bipedal and roughly humanoid, but the similarities ended there. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, the aliens had iridescent scaled skin that shifted colors with their movements. Their faces contained 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and instead of a mouth, they had what appeared to be resonating membranes beneath their jawline. The central figure wore an elaborately patterned garment that seemed to flow like liquid metal. It raised his 6-fingered hand, and a melodious voice emanated not from the being itself, but from a small device hovering beside it. "I am High Ambassador Zethkar of the Galactic Hegemony," the voice announced. "I bring terms of membership for planet designation Terra 3. Elena stepped forward. "I am Dr. Elena Reyes, chosen representative of Earth. We welcome you and look forward to learning about your hegemony." The alien's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "There is little to learn that would be comprehensible to your species at this developmental stage. The terms are standard for primitive civilizations." Primitive. Elena filed away the word choice. "Nevertheless, we're eager to understand our place in the greater galactic community." "Your place," said Zethkar, "will be determined by the Hegemony Council based on your species' utility and compliance." A second alien stepped forward, activating a projection that materialized in the air between them. Complex symbols transformed into English text as they watched. "These are the standard integration protocols," Zethkar continued. "Your world will receive technological assistance appropriate to your development level. In exchange, Earth will provide the hegemony with biological resources, mineral rights to your non-inhabited territories, and will adhere to hegemony regulations regarding weapons development, space expansion, and population control." Elena scanned the document, her diplomatic experience setting off immediate alarms. The technological assistance would keep Earth dependent. The mineral rights included the entirety of the solar system beyond Earth's atmosphere. And the population control stipulated gradual reduction to a sustainable 1 billion humans. This wasn't membership. It was surrender with a polite name. "This is quite comprehensive," Elena said carefully. "Our leaders will need time to review these terms." "Time is unnecessary," replied the third alien, speaking for the first time. "All qualifying species accept these terms. They are non-negotiable." "How many species have joined your hegemony?" Elena asked. "The hegemony currently includes 247 member species across 1,893 star systems," Zethkar replied with what seemed like pride. "And how many of these members joined through this same protocol?" The aliens exchanged quick glances. 212 species were integrated through standard protocols. The remainder were founding members or special cases. Elena nodded thoughtfully. "I notice your document mentions hegemony outposts already established in our Kuiper belt. How long have you been observing Earth?" Again, that subtle exchange of glances. "Observation commenced when your species achieved atomic fission capability." Nearly 80 years of surveillance. They had been watching humanity since 1945. "We expect your leaders to ratify the integration protocols within 7 rotations of your planet," Zethkar continued. "Then the assimilation process will begin." "Of course," Elena replied with a diplomatic smile. "We'll need copies of these documents to share with our governments." As the meeting concluded, and the aliens ascended back to their ship, Commander Diaz moved to Elena's side. "They're not here to negotiate," she whispered urgently. "This is an ultimatum." Elena watched the obsidian vessel rise silently into the clouds. "They think it's an ultimatum," she corrected quietly. "But they've made their first mistake." "What's that?" asked Dr. Patel. "They've revealed they've been watching us for decades, yet they still don't understand humans at all." Elena's expression hardened with determination. "Book me on the next flight to New York. I need to address the UN Security Council immediately." As the alien ship disappeared from view, Elena felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. The hegemony had made one critical error in their calculations. They had assumed Earth would simply accept their terms out of fear or awe. They were about to learn that humans didn't play by anyone else's rules. "They think this game is over," she murmured. "It hasn't even begun." The impossible demands. 3 days after first contact, Elena stood before the United Nations Security Council, her expression grave as she addressed representatives from every nation on Earth. "The galactic hegemony isn't offering us membership," she said, her voice echoing in the cavernous chamber. "They're demanding our surrender." Holographic displays showed key sections of the integration protocols. Elena had spent 72 sleepless hours analyzing every word, every implication with her team. Section 17 requires Earth to reduce energy consumption by 60% within 5 years. Section 23 grants the hegemony unrestricted access to our genetic databases. Section 42 limits our space travel to the orbit of our moon, effectively abandoning the Mars colonies and research stations we've worked decades to establish. Murmurs of disbelief and anger rippled through the assembly. But most concerning, Elena continued, is Section 89, which they conveniently placed near the end. She highlighted a passage in the holographic display. Earth must submit to population optimization protocols, reducing human numbers to 1 billion over the next century through strictly controlled reproduction. The room erupted in outrage. President Okafor raised a hand for silence. "Dr. Rice, what do you propose? They have technology far beyond ours. We've analyzed the footage of their ship. It defies our understanding of physics." Elena nodded, "which is why I'm proposing something that may sound counterintuitive. I request permission to accept their invitation to visit the hegemony's regional headquarters." "You want to walk into their stronghold?" General Martinez asked incredulously. "I want to see their world before we decide our future," Elena replied calmly. "And I want them to see that humans won't simply bow down without understanding what we're getting into." After hours of debate, the Security Council approved her plan. A small team would accompany Elena to the hegemony station. Dr. Patel for communications, Commander Diaz for security assessment, Dr. Kim for scientific analysis, and a new addition, Yvonne Chen, Earth's leading quantum physicist. The next morning, Elena sent a carefully worded message to the hegemony vessel still orbiting Earth. "In the spirit of mutual understanding, Earth requests a delegation be permitted to visit the hegemony regional headquarters before finalizing our response." The reply came within hours. "Request approved. Prepare for transport in 2 planetary rotations." "They agreed too quickly," Commander Diaz observed as they prepared for departure. "They're confident we'll be intimidated by their technology, or they have something to hide," Elena replied. "And they don't think we're clever enough to find it." The transport vessel that arrived to collect them resembled a smaller version of the main ship, another obsidian teardrop, though this one was roughly the size of a commercial airliner. Inside, the walls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, rearranging themselves to create chambers that approximated human comfort. Their escort, a hegemony official named Trelvox, had skin that rippled with patterns of blue and gold. "The journey to Outpost Sigma 9 will take approximately 40 of your hours," it informed them through its translation device. "You will be the first humans to travel beyond your solar system." "How far are we going?" asked Dr. Kim. "The outpost orbits a dwarf star in what you call the Alpha Centauri system." Dr. Chen's eyes widened. "That's over 4 light-years away. Even at near-light speed, the journey should take years." Trelvox's upper eyes blinked in what Elena was beginning to recognize as amusement. "Your understanding of spatial mechanics is primitive. We do not travel through space as you conceptualize it." The journey itself was uneventful, conducted in what felt like normal gravity despite impossible accelerations. Through viewing portals, they watched Earth shrink to a pale blue dot, then vanish entirely as stars blurred around them. When they arrived, Outpost Sigma 9 took their breath away. It was massive, a structure the size of a small moon, with gleaming spires and docking bays for hundreds of ships. Around it swarmed smaller vessels like busy insects around a hive. "Over 20,000 beings reside here permanently," Trelvox explained, seeming proud of the achievement. "How many are from Earth-like planets?" Elena asked innocently. The escort hesitated. "None. Category 3 species are not permitted resident status until full integration is complete." They were assigned quarters that had clearly been hastily adapted for human physiology. Everything was slightly too large, the lighting too bright for human eyes, the temperature several degrees too cool. "They're calling us Category 3, Dr. Paddle reported after analyzing the hegemony's classification system through their quarters information terminal. "It seems to indicate technological capability. Category 5 appears to be their highest tier." "And the founding members?" Elena asked. "All Category 5, though some were admitted at Category 4. That night, while the others slept, Dr. Chen worked with the data they had gathered. She projected a complex quantum formula when Elena joined her. "Something's wrong with their physics," Chen whispered. "The energy requirements for their FTL travel should be astronomical, but their power systems don't show the necessary output." "Meaning?" "Either they're breaking the laws of physics as we understand them, or," Chen hesitated, "or they're getting energy from somewhere else." Elena finished. "Somewhere they don't want us to know about." The next morning, they were escorted to the Hegemony Council chamber, a vast circular room where representatives from dozens of species sat in tiered seating. At the center, a raised platform held 7 beings, each from a different species, but all wearing the same flowing metallic garments that marked them as High Counselors. "Welcome, Terrans," announced the central figure, a towering insectoid being with compound eyes that reflected the chamber's light in rainbow patterns. "I am High Counselor Cythera. Your presence here is unprecedented for a Category 3 species." Elena stepped forward. "We appreciate the Hegemony's willingness to host us before we make our decision regarding the integration protocols." "There is no decision to make," replied Cythera. "The protocols are standard and non-negotiable. Your presence here is merely a courtesy." "Then we thank you for the courtesy," Elena said smoothly. "We would like to use this opportunity to better understand what membership truly means. Perhaps we could speak with representatives from other recently integrated worlds." The council members exchanged glances, and Elena noted how their skin patterns shifted. Was it communication? Discomfort? "That would be inappropriate," said another counselor, a reptilian being with feathered crests. "Category 3 species are not permitted direct contact with other members until integration is complete." "I see," Elena replied. "Then perhaps you could clarify some aspects of the integration protocols. For instance, Section 42 restricting our space travel seems at odds with your stated goal of advancing our civilization. Your species has demonstrated aggressive expansion tendencies," Cythera stated flatly. "All Category 3 species are restricted from expansionist activities until they have proven their commitment to hegemony principles." For 2 hours, Elena carefully probed the terms of the integration protocols, her diplomatic training allowing her to maintain a facade of respectful curiosity, even as each answer confirmed her worst suspicions. This wasn't membership, it was subjugation under the guise of protection. After the council session, they were given a guided tour of the public sections of the outpost. Elena noted how certain areas were conspicuously off-limits and how their guide steered them away from contact with other species. During a moment when their guide was distracted, Commander Dias whispered, "East Corridor, 3rd level. Did you see it? Armed guards at a checkpoint. Whatever's back there, they don't want us near it." Elena nodded slightly. "Dr. Kim, how are you feeling? You look pale." Kim took the cue perfectly. "Actually, I'm not feeling well. Something about the artificial gravity, perhaps." "I'll escort Dr. Kim back to our quarters," Dias offered. "We'll catch up with the tour later." Their guide seemed hesitant but eventually acquiesced. As the tour continued, Elena kept their guide engaged with questions while Dias and Kim executed their plan. Hours later, in the privacy of their quarters, Dias' expression was grim as she displayed images on her secure tablet. "They're lying to us about everything," she said quietly. "I managed to access a restricted terminal while security was dealing with Kim's medical emergency. The hegemony doesn't have 247 member species. They have 247 subjugated species." The images showed what appeared to be labor operations on massive scales. Beams of various physiologies working in mines, factories, and energy production facilities. This isn't membership, Elena breathed. It's an empire. But why? Asked Dr. Puddle. What do they want from Earth specifically? Our resources aren't unique. Our technology is primitive by their standards. Dr. Chen, who had been analyzing data from scans she'd secretly conducted during the tour, looked up from her calculations. I think I know, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's us. They want humans. She displayed her findings. Their quantum communication technology is faltering. From what I can tell, they're having trouble maintaining the entanglement fields that make their faster-than-light communication possible. And humans help with that. Diaz asked skeptically. The human brain has quantum properties we're only beginning to understand, Chen explained. Our consciousness may operate partially on quantum principles. My guess, they've discovered that human neural patterns can somehow stabilize their quantum fields. Elena sat back, the full horror of the situation dawning on her. They don't want our planet or our resources. They want our minds. What do we do? Asked Dr. Kim. We're light years from Earth with no way to get home without their technology. Elena stared at the images of the subjugated species. Then her eyes hardened with determination. We do what humans have always done when backed into a corner, she said. We change the rules of the game. She turned to her team. I need to get back into their central database, not through authorized channels. I need to see what they're hiding. And then, when we understand exactly what they need from us, we're going to make them an offer they never expected. As the others looked at her with a mixture of hope and apprehension, Elena felt the full weight of her responsibility. She wasn't just negotiating for Earth anymore. She was potentially negotiating for every subjugated species in the hegemony. They think humans are predictable, she said quietly. They're about to learn just how wrong they are. //